This episode of the Long Run Podcast is sponsored by Skechers. There we go.
Hello, everybody. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK. It's 1 p.m., I believe, in Chicago. And welcome to the Long Run Show, live stream and podcast brought to you by the FORDY Runs running community and our lovely friends at Skechers. God, how much excitement around here now. We are joined by a very, very special guest from the other side of the Atlantic, Mr. Mike Coe, who you may know if you're one of his thousands of YouTube and social media followers as Kofuzi. We are honoured for you to come along and see us today, sir. And I know Chris and Hayden are very, very excited about you being here. Hayden's even interrupted he's over your side of the pond. He's in Florida going around the theme parks, and he's tore himself away from Disneyland just so he can come and talk to you, Mike. So thanks very much for coming along.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, boys, hey?
Yeah,
I've teed you up now. I said you're excited.
I know, but when you said that I thought he was actually introducing Hayden. Is actually what I thought where you was going with that. I actually thought. So, firstly, apologies to everybody for a slight delay. That's on us because we're not as slick as Mike is with his daily live stream. So, apologies to everybody for that. But we're finally here. I'm basically just going to be fanboying all night. So, apologies now to everybody who thinks I'm just groveling and it's embarrassing. But we do want to, as always, hear from you. For everybody who's tuning in live, stick your comments in the chat box, whether you're on Facebook or you're watching it on YouTube live stream, whatever way you're doing it. Hit us up with the comments. We'll try and get through as many questions. We've had, Mike, we've had bucket loads of questions come in this week on Instagram, on email. It's been insane. So we were going to try and get as many as we can, but also we appreciate everybody who's watching live. So, jump in there, stick them with a queue. Tobe's going to put a link up, whatever it is. And we go from there. So
yeah, just stick if you can stick a cue in front of your question and just put it on there, and I'll try and keep up. We'd love you all to be involved. So if you've got any observations or any questions that you want to know, we're delighted for you to join in the fun. Mike, thanks ever so much for coming. We appreciate you're a very busy man. What have you been up to this week? How's things going now?
I'm just still kind of recovering from going out to Eugene for World Championships. I only went for the first half of the meet, and it was exhausting. It takes a different kind of endurance to be able to keep up with an event like that. It was just so much fun. And my sleep schedule is still pretty much wrecked. I'm just completely off and just trying to get back on my feet back here.
Of course, that's in Oregon.
Chicago.
So that's 3 hours west of you time-wise, isn't it?
It was 2 hours. Yeah.
2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was a busy old time for you boys. I mean, obviously I follow your channel, but believe in the run as well. And I've got a question I've got to ask you about that later, by the way. But you guys were pumping out some amazing stuff on Instagram and stuff like that. It just looked so much fun over the World Champs. I mean, it was just buzzing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like an attention overload. Like everywhere you looked, there was something amazing happening, whether it was in the stadium, on the track, or just going to an event, seeing just pros kind of just casually walking around to legends that are showing up to meet and greet kind of event. So there's just so many things happening. My head was on a swivel, and I had no time to kind of take in what was happening. You just were going bang, bang, bang from event to event.
We've got the Commonwealth Games just started here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first day today.
Yeah.
And Birmingham is just buzzing. So Oregon with its history, and it's just that must have been rocking it out, right? Especially in the evenings.
Yeah, I had never been out to Eugene before, so it was all new to me. But Hayward Field has such history and legacy to it. So it draws all sorts of legends from track and field. And so there was a very palpable energy. And because the town is it's relatively small, so it's like when you go there and you're walking around, you know that everyone else that's walking around is there because they're a track and field fan, they're a running fan, or just as likely they could be an Olympian or a track coach or something like that. They're somehow very connected to the running space.
Now that's you. I mean, you can tell he's a pro because that links perfectly into what we're going to talk about tonight, right? Which actually we're going to drop you something we didn't tell you about, because I put a post out today. Was it yesterday, Wilco? That's caused a lot of interest. So we're going to throw that at you.
Oh yeah,
so,
we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
But really, what we want to get on with, and that's why Hayden's like sitting there, like waiting, like a dog at the because he's got. Well, you tell him what you've got planned. You got, is it Chicago and New York? What you got up to, Hayden?
Well, I've got evening, Mike. By the way, well, I've got Chicago coming up later on this year, and there's a few of us in the 41s community that are actually doing it. So we've got a few questions, knowing that you're the Chicago expert. Might be handy to get a few answers there. Yep. And then next year, yeah, there's a few of us again. We've already pre-booked. We're ready for New York. So we're looking for as much advice as possible.
So we're
before
going to hit
we
you up
dive
on
into that too much, can we just? I mean, obviously, you know, there are lots of people who join us today, well aware of your work, Mike, and you know, fans of your life sort of thing. But I'm sure there's lots of people, particularly maybe in England, who don't know much about you. So could you just sort of like give us a brief summary of like your running journey and how you got involved in broadcasting and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of like a super fan who happens to now get access to a lot of these events. You know, I'm just a regular guy. My whole theme is I'm a non-elite runner. I'm not going to be in the front corral. You know, I'm not going to be in the elite or the sub-elite kind of spaces, but I'm just a guy that gets out there and really enjoys running and enjoys the sport, both from, you know, a consumption perspective as a fan, but I also enjoy doing it myself. And I've been taking a camera around with me for all of my adventures and, you know, documenting it along the way. And so a lot of times it comes out as running shoe reviews. That's kind of my main thing that I'm doing on the internet, but also, you know, my training plans or my adventures, my races, all that is kind of like what's kind of out there on the internet. And my big goal now is to bring people along with me as I go on these trips.
I mean,
there's like a lot of parallels here, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I've said it before. I've said it. I don't think I keep saying. I mean, I look up to Mike and everything that Mike does, and it genuinely inspired me when I started out, and continues to inspire. I mean, you just need to watch one of his videos. It's just like the sub 3 hour marathon just blows my mind. From a content making perspective, right? He's just killing it. But also, it's the things I don't think that people appreciate, like you say, Mike, about the Run Club and the Strava and everything else that you're doing outside that, which is the same ethos that I try and have over here, which is like everyday runners. Everybody's involved. We're having fun. We're having a laugh. We're non-elites, apart from Hayden, who won the Edinburgh Marathon. But we're just having a laugh, you know, and that's what we're all about. And it's bringing those communities together, whether it be on YouTube, like we are tonight, whether it be in the Facebook group, which we also like, but you know, or at Parkrun tomorrow. It doesn't matter. And I think that's, as you say, that's the parallels between the two. And that's what always attracts me back to Mike's work. And luckily, I say I've been then introduced to other content creators that he's recommended, like I said, Believe in the Run and others along the way. So yeah, it's powerful stuff. It really is what he's doing over there. It's amazing. And, you know, again, just so pleased to bring it to the UK. And we had a lot of people asking when you are coming to the UK, Mike, by the way.
Yeah, Ian Lowe's he's the latest one. He says, when are you going to come to London for the marathon?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to be the most likely way that I get to London is if I'm running the London Marathon. I mean, I was just in Heathrow. I mean, I guess that doesn't really count.
Doesn't count.
On a layover. But it's been probably a dozen years since I've been in England. So I'd like to get back over there. I don't know. I mean, the London Marathon is a New Balance race, I think. So, I mean, I'm running New York this year. That's a New Balance race too. So hopefully, you know, they'll be excited about what I do and they'll invite me to come over
in there,
for London, you know.
It'd be great to have you here. So you've got such a huge fan base over here as well. Like we have in Mongolia and Malta. I don't know if you know, Mike, but we are the biggest podcast in Malta and Mongolia. And last week, check this out, in Hungary, which blew our minds.
We don't know which one of our mates been sat in, on the banks of the river in Budapest.
Somebody must have been, it wasn't Bill, because Bill was made us #1 in Cyprus for watching all our episodes in Cyprus. Which
hats off, Billy. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Bill, for doing that, getting us up the charts as always. We really appreciate it. So I tell you what, should we jump into that thing that Mike doesn't know anything about and put him on the spot, Wilco?
Yeah, let's do that. You introduce it, sir?
So on, what day was it? Yesterday, I blew up. I was just doing a regular Thursday training run, medium effort. We were playing 30 miles in the plan, right? And then about 10 miles, you know what those runs, you just checked out. I was done, right? And then I got back. I was with Simon. We got back and we went, shit, we've been running for 9 days because we had a heat wave here in the UK. So my usual rest day didn't kick in. And then I realized that I'd done like just under 80 miles, which is quite a lot for me. I'm usually about 40, 50 miles a week with a rest day in there. And I was like, I've been running for 9 days and I've been doing like that sort of mileage. No wonder I'm tired. So it then asked the question in the group, like, how do you look at your week? Do you do like a week to week? Alan, who's has been on the podcast and hopefully he's coming back soon. He does a 2-week block. He looks at it on a 2-week plan. Some people do like weird, like, I don't know. How do you look at your week in terms of mileage how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on, if I'm training for a race. And so like, let's say I'm getting ready for a marathon. My week is a 7-day cycle. So I start on Monday and on Sunday. And I kind of think about what are the key things that I want to get done that week. And then I backfill from there. So like, I'll want to have a long run on Sunday. I'll probably want to have one quality session probably on a Wednesday. And then everything else is kind of just like, all right, fill in the blanks in terms of a lot of other just easy running from there. And my usual goal depends. It'll change over the course of the training block, but it'll probably for me peak out at around like 75 miles a week for a marathon. And so if the long run, if it's a 75 mile per hour, if it's a 75 mile week, that long run's probably 18 to 20 miles. And so then, then I got to think about another 55 miles that I want to get in. The workout's probably going to be about 12 to 13 total with like the warm up and the cool down and stuff. So then I got to worry really about like another 40 miles over the next 5 days. And so you just kind of divide it up from there. I usually, when I'm in marathon training, I'll look to do like 8 to 10 miles a day for easy runs. Otherwise, and then sometimes I'll take a rest day and try to get on the bike instead. Yeah, so that's how I just backfill.
But do you look at it on like a Monday to Sunday kind of thing, or are you like working it from like rest day to rest day? Or, I mean, I don't know whether there's a wrong way to look at it. I mean, everyone's different, but
I mean, I think ideally, if I could do like a 9-day cycle, I don't have like a regular, 9 to 5 job anymore. So I probably could do a 9-day cycle because then it would give you like a workout, 2 rest days, workout, 2 rest days, long run, 2 like rest or like easy days. That would make the most sense to me. Because then you're getting 3 sessions every 9 days. And I feel like that's a good amount. But, I like Strava a lot and I like to see what the weekly number is. So
have you heard, Mike, did you listen
Sunday.
to our podcast the other day about being addicted? You probably didn't. He's too busy. We did a podcast the other day, right? It was, are you addicted to Strava? And we had to say, obviously, that there's other running apps available. Just to stop the lies coming onto us. But basically, it's all about people being addicted to Strava. So I think you need to listen to that when you're on your bike, and it may, stop you being so addicted to. But
I think, Chris, when you was talking about your it was an unusual spell because we had at the beginning of this 9-day spell, Mike. We had here just outside London. The weather was the hottest day in Britain ever. It was 40 degrees. It's unheard of. So everybody just wound down and nobody went out running for 2 days. So there were sort of like exceptional circumstances, weren't there, man?
Yeah, I wouldn't normally be that. I mean, I am stupid, but I'm not usually that stupid. I mean, so it was one of those things that I did. Toby,
how do you stand, Mike, on streaks? Running streaks. I mean, we've got one guy, Ian Wilson. He's out doing a 50 miler as we speak in the Lake District. I want to wish him all the best for that. But he's done like run every day for he's pushing on for 1,000 days. I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think about streaks? Do you think they're good or bad, or have you done any yourself?
I mean, my longest streak is somewhere in like the 50 to 60 day kind of range, but I think that they're awesome for people that like them. And I think that if you don't like them, don't try to like them. You know, I don't think you need to have them or incorporate them into your training. For me, it was just kind of like, you know, I like to have rest days like leading up to a taper before a big race. And then, I mean, I do like running every day, but during heavy marathon training, I know that it's probably better for my feet if I can take a day off a week and then substitute a 90-minute easy run with like a 90-minute bike session. And so you're still getting the heart rate up, but it's staying relatively low. You're getting that cardio aerobic benefit. And so that's kind of what I like to do. And so, you know, kind of related to that addicted to Strava thing is I intentionally don't let myself run streak too long, because then it becomes this big thing. And I already got a lot of weird stuff that I do that interferes with like family schedule. Like I can't, you know, like have an extra glass of beer at dinner, you know, because I gotta film B-roll of a shoe before I go run in the morning, you know? So it's like, I'm trying to like strike a balance between having this kind of hobby / job that, you know, I really enjoy, but not letting it completely take over everything.
Now, we're going to get into the questions from the 6 billion people that are watching this around the world. But have you got a running coach? That's what I want to know. So your plans and stuff like that you're following, is that just, you know, what you've learned, you know, and tailored to yourself? Or do you have a coach? Have you ever sought out a coach? You know, what's the deal there?
Yeah, I'm not currently coached because I like to like experiment. And so I think it would just drive a coach like bonkers if I was like, all right, this time I want to try a lot of high intensity, you know, and then the next time I just want to do all low heart rate. I think that people will go crazy. And so I'm not coached. I did have a coach, you know, one marathon build. I did the Chicago Marathon, I think 2019 with Nike, and they had a coach, someone that was local. She's really great. And she wrote up plans for me, and we talked a lot about kind of like the theory behind all of it. And it was really great, but I still just like to like kind of like keep things a little bit more fluid. So I have like a couple of training books that I refer to from time to time. And I've kind of like narrowed into a handful of workouts that I think I respond well to get ready for a marathon. So like, I don't really think that I mean, I probably do need some coaching, but I'm getting by fine without it, I guess. I'm really enjoying myself. So I feel like, I don't feel the need to go get one.
Yeah. It's interesting. People either hunt them out to start with, or they kind of, and that's great, or they find them when they come up against trouble. So it's like one or the other. And then I think everybody else sits in the middle and they just kind of like get on with it and just enjoy it. And it's kind of a cool process. Right, Wilco, good luck with all the questions.
He sat there so patiently.
Oh, Pluto?
Yeah, he's been charged. He's been, he's had such a mad week in Florida. He's got another 2 to go, and this is the highlight of his whole trip.
I actually think he's frozen, Wilco, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, I think his internet connection, which he says was so good, has proven like really bad, hasn't it? I mean, so yeah.
Right, shall we give him a kick then? Why don't we go through some questions from the viewers? JBS, our friend of the show. Mike, what was your greatest running event this year? Was it going to the Worlds, or was it the Grandma's Marathon?
I mean, I think I'll answer it a little diplomatically and say both if I can. I mean, Grandma's was a really great personal experience, but from like the running community perspective, like going to Worlds was just like very eye-opening and exciting, and inspiring on a lot of levels too. And so like, there's one that's internal and one that's kind of external.
I suppose you can be the fan, can't you, at that sort of thing as well? You can see it from both, but it's not, I would imagine that some of these things can get a bit worky, a bit sort of like organised. There's a lot of organisations doing that. But then if you go to something like the World Championships, you can lose yourself a little bit because you've got the access to go to places. You can enjoy it as a fan, can't you?
Yeah. I mean, it was great because it wasn't about me, you know? And so sometimes, you know, on some of these events, it can, you know, not draining is not the right word, but it takes a lot of energy when it's like, I feel like I'm the one that people are there to see. At all the events at Worlds, you know, we had group runs and stuff and people were there to see me, but they were there for Worlds, you know? And so like that takes a lot of pressure off for me. So that was really nice to kind of experience it with everybody.
Yeah, a bit of a holiday for you.
That was great.
Right, Wilco, what else?
On the subject, now this was in Minnesota, wasn't it, this race?
What, Grandma?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, Bud Lynch asked, was it really as tough as it looked on your recap? Although I must say, Ben, your colleague, he looked like he joined in for the last K.
I know, Ben in that video was just like he's out for a jog, finishes, and he just looks at you like, what have we just done? It was incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's like a 2:38 guy. So like for him to run 3 hours is, you know, pretty easy, you know. For me, it was hard. And I had basically everything lined up for me perfectly. We had fantastic weather, a downhill course, a tailwind that was pretty strong. And so like everything was just lined up. And I just kind of just squeaked in there. So it was a great course. The course is relatively easy, but it was hard. It was hard for me.
You didn't look at the finish, bro. You crossed it. And it does though, doesn't it? Like if you see Tobe after he finished Edinburgh, like he looked like he was going to die. Or like the other day we did a run. We did this run, Mike. This video's coming out on Sunday. It's hilarious. We basically broke Toby, and there's a picture up on Instagram. I honestly thought people messaged and said, "Is he generally okay?" Like seriously, but he was broken after Edinburgh. So you say you were, but you crossed the line, dude, and you were like, "Okay, yeah, I'm good." And you know, and when you're chugging on your beer or whatever that was, you looked okay, man. I mean, I reckon you could have gone faster.
I think now, like, it's like when you hit that breakthrough, then you kind of understand the pacing a little bit better. And so I think that there's still a little bit more headroom there. But on that day, there's not a lot more that I could have done. I mean, something that didn't really get captured very well is that like there's an area at the end of the race where you kind of come down by the water. There's a stadium that's over there, and you kind of like loop around a whole bunch of times. For whatever reason, it got really windy down there, and there was like the winds were whipping around, and I was just yelling at Ben. I'm like, Ben, he got way far ahead of me. I was like, come on back, block the wind for me. So I was just complaining for the last half mile that there's too windy. And so like, there's just a lot of me whining at the end that just didn't get captured on camera. So I was very much complaining a lot. And then once you're finished, you know, it's like, you know, the adrenaline comes through. But there was a point in between the finish line and the beer, which was an unusually long walk. But like, it really felt like all of a sudden, like concrete had filled into my legs and I just couldn't move at all. And Ben was like, do you need to sit down? I'm like, I don't know if that's going to help. He's like, do you want to keep walking? And I'm like, I don't know if that's going to help. And he's like, what do you need? I'm like, I have no idea, but my legs feel like they're filling with concrete. Let's try sitting. And he's like, he saw me trying to sit and he goes, ooh, I don't know if sitting's the right move for you right now. And I'm like, too bad. That's what's happening. Because I can't do anything else. So
that's cool.
You know, it was rough. It was rough.
Did it take a bit of time, you know, doing a sub 3? Did it take a bit of time for that to sink in?
I mean, it does and it doesn't because, you know, I gotten pretty close earlier in the year at LA, and I've been feeling like, you know, I have the fitness there. I'm overall pretty close to that mark. And it's just a matter of getting everything to kind of like line up on the right day. And, you know, a lot of the race was me like, I got the perfect day, don't waste it. And so, you know, I was thinking about it from that perspective. And so like, I didn't think it was going to be easy or that I had it like as a sure thing, but, you know, like getting that sub 3 and after many attempts, I think this is my 5th time trying to do it, feels very different than what I thought it would feel like when I was on attempt 0, you know? And so like, there's just a little bit of a disconnect.
Cool.
Hayden's back.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mike, I remember watching the video. And am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, mate.
I was going to say, Mike, on that video, on that video, I think it was the last 10K, and you was like, I've got 40 minutes. I need a sub 40 10K to get this sub 3 hour. And you was like, I haven't got it. I haven't got it in me. And then literally a few minutes later, you had it in you, and you was just coming to the end. Where does that come from?
Well, the thing is that I'm really bad at math. And so like for whatever reason, like I looked at the clock wrong, and I actually had like 43 minutes or 44 minutes.
Right.
And so like I was ready to just pack it in and be like, all right, we're just jogging at this point. So like this hurts, you know? But Ben was like, you want to slow down? He's like, why? And I'm like, because I can't run a 40-minute. I could hardly run a 40-minute 10K regularly, let alone at mile 20. And he's like, what are you talking about? We've got like 43 minutes left. You could totally do that. You could run like 7-minute miles, 7-minute 15 miles, and like we'll get there. And I was like, wait, really? And so like the same thing happened to me in LA, where I was running with Floris, and he's like, come on, Mike, you're really close. You can get there. And I had done the math poorly in my head. And I was like, no, we can't. You're just saying that so I kind of get a good time, but like, you know, a good finishing time. But I think it's out of reach. And I had like mentally given up. And so like, I didn't let myself mentally give up, even though I didn't didn't believe Ben that there was that much time left. I thought he was just saying that we were close.
To keep you going. You know what? I've just had a brilliant idea, guys. While we've got Hayden still with us, should we get onto his Chicago, New York deep dive?
Yeah, let's strike while the iron's hot, shall we? Yeah, good
let's do it.
Right,
Let's
go on,
do it.
Hayden.
Well,
Just grill him.
Well, one of the biggest questions that comes out of asking people, and something that I'm sort of semi-nervous about, is I watch your videos all the time because obviously you're from Chicago, and them ice runs and them snow runs, that they are incredible. But that is not something I want to be doing on marathon day. What are we looking like weather-wise as we approach October in Chicago?
Yeah, October can be tricky because Chicago tends to be a little bit too warm for a marathon, or in my opinion, a little bit too cold for a marathon. And so it's somewhat rare to get the perfect racing conditions, even though the course for Chicago is pretty much, you know, it's a runner's dream because it's almost pancake flat. And so, I think I've lost the camera here, guys.
Oh,
you know what you're
saying
saying
okay.
about
We
your
can still
camera.
hear you.
Yeah,
So
there we go.
for everybody who's there,
all right,
there
I'm switching over to another camera. There we go. All right. So, sorry about that, guys. So, yeah. So, I think weather-wise, you know, it's going to be pretty mild temperatures. A little bit, probably, I would anticipate for the warm side. But as you get closer, you know, we'll have a better idea of it. But usually, it's pretty good running conditions. I would say probably going to be a little bit warmer than the London Marathon typically is.
Okay, and with regards to highlights and lowlights, so over here in London, on the London Marathon, we've got bits of the course that are just not good, i.e. mud shoot. These are the bits of the course where you put your head down and you just hope for the best. And then we've got highlights as you go over Tower Bridge, as you go around by the Cuddy Sark. That's fantastic. In Chicago, what are we looking out for? Bits of the course that are we just got to have a bit of mental strength, and the other bits where we know we're going to be lifted.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of the course is super fun. That's where you're going to see lots of people, a lot of great energy, especially within the first 3 miles. And then you'll kind of go north and then circle back down towards downtown right around the halfway point. Those areas, that's kind of like the easiest for the most spectators to get to. And you're going to be running kind of like through the skyscraper. So it's going to be a lot of fun running through those portions. After the halfway point, you shoot west. And then it gets relatively quiet out there. And so that part, especially if it's a hot day, is a place where a lot of people end up kind of like losing the race in terms of overdoing it or just kind of like losing kind of like their mental resolve. And then you will get eventually back towards downtown around miles 16 or 17. And then again, it gets a little bit quiet. There isn't as much crowd support, and the buildings aren't as tall. So again, if it's a sunny, hot day, you might end up feeling a little bit cooked. So those are some areas to kind of watch out for.
Okay, and with regards to, I know you spoke about it, mentioned it earlier, it's a flat course, we know that. So how much should people be looking at if they're thinking about this as being their their A race, this is the one they want to go for a good time. Is it a good course to go for a good time, you think, or too busy?
No, I think it's absolutely a great course to go for a very fast time, especially because there's going to be a pace group for pretty much no matter what speed you're running. And so, some of the smaller marathons, some people, depending on how quick they are, might be spending a lot of time running by themselves. You're not going to find that in Chicago. You're always going to have someone to run with. And it is very flat. So like there's not going to be a lot of hills to speak of. There's a couple of, overpasses and bridges and stuff like that. But those are, even as far as bridges go, are relatively small until you get to that last turn going up Roosevelt, which we call Mount Roosevelt, which it's only like 30 feet of incline, but it comes at like mile 26.1. So it feels like a lot, but know that once you're done with it, you'll see the finish and you can just start kicking right there.
And how about the Chicago 5K the day before? I've had a few people interested in doing that just to sort of build up the event, the weekend. Is that something that you do or something you'd advise others to do, foreign nationals coming over?
I would say if you're a Kofuzi fan, I would say don't go to the 5K and come to the group run, because the group run usually is the same time. So I'm not trying to take away from anything that the Chicago Marathon does, but that's usually when it is. And so we'll usually start out over at the Chess Pavilion. We'll run along the water. So you'll get to run along the routes that you see in a lot of the videos, and then we'll end up at the Bean, is what the route we normally run. And so it's a nice photo op down there too. And that's also if you're meeting up family afterwards, that's also kind of where the 5K ends. And so I try to make it as convenient as possible, especially if people need to go pick up their bib later.
And obviously you've done. Yeah, just want to fly to Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm more excited about the marathon, about going to Chicago, or maybe the 5K meeting Kofuzi on the Saturday. I can't work out which one's
I think it's the 5K.
About.
Sack the medal off. I'm coming. I think I might just speak to the boss when
let's go.
If I can come.
I'll come.
Wilco's coming. Now you're friends on Instagram, Wilco. You and Mike.
Yeah,
Sure you can hook up, right? So, that's just... Mike, I've got to tell you, he was so excited about that. More excited than I was about you coming on. That was just fantastic. Actually, you just made a good point though about Hayden. If I can just jump in, because there's something you touched on there a bit about the the run club element, what you're talking about in terms of the US sort of club scene. Because one of the ladies I used to coach was one of the the big club in New York. Oh, I can never remember.
Roadrunners.
Yeah, Roadrunners. Yeah. What's the club scene like in the US at the moment? Is it strong? Is it right? Don't tell you, but is it quite elitist? Because over here in the UK, some clubs, traditional clubs, are still unfortunately a little bit stuck in their ways. We started a club over here, FORDY Runs, along with a couple of others, where we tried to offer something where people don't have to go to a track and run as fast as everybody else, and get the benefits of being affiliated. What's the scene like? The club scene in the US like? Is it strong? Is it I don't know, how is it? You're a solo runner, right? So
yeah, I again, I'm kind of weird, and so I do a lot of shoe testing and I run with the camera a lot. It's always not an easy way to introduce yourself to a running club. But my general take on it, and having not run in England, in quite a long time, but the sense that I get from following all the British YouTubers that are out there is that it's a lot more varied in terms of what the run club scene is in the US. In the UK, it seems like it's a lot more there's an improvement objective or a speed / performance objective. It seems a little bit more structured and regimented. There's leagues and there's race series, things that different clubs seem to be getting into. And it seems to be just a lot more kind of organized. Whereas here in the US, you can find a different club to suit whatever your preferences are. If you want it to be more social than running, there's a club for that. If you want it to be about running fast and showing up as a team in the team kit, and trying to score team points at a local race, there's a club for you for that. If you want something that it's a bunch of other people that are like you, that have jobs, that have families, and you got to get your runs in the morning early, there's a club for that. But if you're a single person and you like to run at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, there's a club for that too. So there's a lot more variety, it seems.
I've got to you just remind me, I've got to give a shout out to last week's guest, who I know you met when you was over at the ASICS gig, was Ben. Because this week he won the champs. He's now the Essex champion, which is, we're both Essex brothers. I mean, I love that guy.
Yeah.
I love him just as much as I love you. If I could sit in a room with you two, I think I'd explode.
His ideal dinner party.
Yeah, but Ben.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he the defending champion now? He won it the year before too, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's quite snidey. I think he big, he doesn't say anything and then he just smashes the life out of him. And yeah, as you say, he probably, I think he was or is. And have you seen that he's going for this sub 15-minute 5K?
Yeah, which is bonkers.
You don't fancy pacing him? No, you don't.
No, you know what? I tried to film a friend at the 5K in Eugene. So there was one during the men's marathon. And so I was going up there. Dr. Josh is a friend of mine, and he's a very fast runner. And I was like, you know what? I'll get some footage of you, Josh. I'll try to elbow my way up to the front. And then like when the gun goes off, he's going to run like 5-minute miles. And I can't do that once, let alone 3 times. And so I'll just try to hang on for as long as I can, and you'll get a nice clip, 30-second clip maybe, that you could post to your video. That was the plan. But as soon as the gun went off, everyone like took off, and I was sprinting and I couldn't keep up. Everyone was still gapping me. And I'm like, this is just a different level of speed. He ended up coming in Josh is one of the fastest people that I personally know. And he ended up coming in like 6th. And I was like, I can't imagine how fast other people go. And I don't know if there was a sub 15 that day, but I mean, sub I don't think people understand how fast sub 15.
I mean,
really is.
That is crazy fast. I mean, I can't wait to see that when he does that. Yeah, that is going to be. Wilco, do you want to grab that Parkrun? Because
I thought this was quite interesting because obviously, I'm sure you're aware that. With all the running thing, probably Parkrun's the biggest phenomenon in running in Britain, certainly. I mean, there's now nearly 800 different Parkruns every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock all over the place. Where I am now, where I live just down the road from Chris, we've got about 8 or 9 within 10 miles that we could go to every week. And now the first Parkrun was organised in America in 2012, and now there's only 55. Why do you think the take-up's perhaps not been as rapid?
I'm not sure why that is. Because like at the same time, what seems to have proliferated is kind of like the 5K, like fun run / walk. That's a fundraiser for something. So like, there could be one to raise money for the zoo, one to raise money for researching cancer, one for raising money for a school, so like there's been a lot of those that people seem to be going to. At the same time that like more structured 5Ks don't really seem to be happening as much. So I'm not really sure why that is, but I don't know. I kind of have been looking for some 5Ks to get into. I think for the month of August and into September, I'd like to try I'm inspired very much by what I saw at World Championships. So I'm like, I think I want to try and run fast a little bit. So maybe I'll try that while I'm not like specifically getting ready for a marathon, because it seems like I'm always marathon training. So like while I'm in a break, I'm going to try to do that. And I was like trying to find some 5Ks to get into around me. And we recently moved out to the suburbs, so it's a little bit harder. And I'm like, I wish there was something just like I knew that I could go somewhere like on a Saturday and just show up,
Yeah, we got a typical sort of comment from Chaz, who's he says, I live in the US. He says he lives in the Midwest. He's not more specific than that. And he'd say, I'd like to know about how we could sort of duplicate Parkruns. He'd like to know sort of like how they're organised and, whether they can, he says he'd really like to see the American, over in the States, they getting adapted and something similar. So maybe there is still room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is like there are a lot of like local schools that have tracks. So I think that like that or have cross country courses anyway, that I think could possibly, maybe not do what Parkrun is doing, but do something similar and kind of like tie it to the community. Cause I feel like that community aspect is really important to Parkrun, because like people have like their regular Parkrun that they go to. So you're seeing the same people over and over. And I think that, that might be hard to kind of like come in and do right now in the US. But if you tied it to like the local school or the local like high school cross country team, I think that might be one way of potentially like doing that. But it's going to take like, I think just a couple of pockets of very dedicated people that are very interested in kind of building that kind of community to make it happen.
I mean, that's definitely the way it is here. That every event, all of those 770 odd events, they all have a real hardcore of people who organise it, and it just wouldn't happen if it wasn't for them. Perhaps, Chris, if Mike's going to come over and do the London Marathon, perhaps we should send him down to Bushy on the Saturday.
Yeah,
I mean, go to where it all started, down the Bushy Park.
And we'll take Ben. And we take Ben because he's never bothered to go there. And then what we could all do, because Mike, have you ever done Parkrun?
I've never done like a Parkrun brand like Park. I mean, I've done 5Ks, I've done local 5Ks, but I've never done like a Parkrun one before.
Because the home one, we've got Mel, who's part of the 40 Runs running community, massive stalwart of the community. She basically runs Bushy Park where it all started, and she gets really upset when people start taking the tokens and licking them, because people apparently, because it's the home of Parkrun, they lick them. Now, my man there, Hayden, he does his satellite group down the area, and they routinely do Bushy. But what I was going to say actually, Hayden, you've been, because you're in Florida. You've got a Parkrun with you, haven't you, right?
Yeah, so last Saturday we went up to Claremont, which is about 20 miles from where we are in Orlando, and we done the Parkrun there. Funny enough, Wilco was saying about people setting it up. I'm pretty sure that this one was set up by English people, expats, that had gone out there, and they wanted to bring the whole Parkrun scene over there. But It's really popular. Obviously, the holiday destination here in Orlando is filled with Brits anyway. So you're getting people that come in here that want to do Parkrun. And I think this week there was about 100, 170, 180 odd people. And there's a few noticeable differences, mostly being the fact that there's more Americans there. So there's a more positive vibe. There's a lot of high fives. There's a lot of,
love it.
You look good, man. Keep going. Well done.
Awesome.
And people stay behind to the finish. The winner was there. He waited to the end and he clapped every person in. And this is, it's absolutely fantastic. So in a way, I think it could really, really take off here. It really could take off. Just needs someone to push that.
I know someone. He's got a YouTube channel with about 1 million subscribers. He ain't doing much. Right. So come on, let's get more of these questions, because bless them.
We'll rattle through a few questions then, if we may, Mike. Mark Langhorn says, what running trainer have you most enjoyed running in so far in 2022?
They're like a rich running shoe.
Yeah,
I mean, Nova Blast 3 is my favorite shoe. I just ran in it again today, and I got to the 100-mile mark, so I'll be posting a video about it probably Sunday. But yeah, that's just a fantastic shoe. You could do pretty much everything in it. And I think that people that have a dozen running shoes or more are going to find a space for it in their rotation. And people that only want to buy one shoe, that's probably going to be the one that I recommend for a lot of people. It's just been really good to me.
Has that replaced the Pegasus in your lineup? Because obviously being a big Pegasus guy, and you know that's probably where a lot of people found you, Mike, right? Originally was where you was doing all the Pegasus stuff. So has that shoe taken over from the Pegasus, would you say, for you? The Nova Blast?
I think so. I mean, I still have very sentimental and fond memories of the Pegasus, but the last 3 versions have been very different than kind of the I guess the late 30s were very different than the early 30s for the Pegasus. I started at the 32. I think it peaked at 36. The 39, I think, is probably the best of the React Pegasuses, but it's just not quite what I remember. And either looking at it from is this a retro shoe or is this a modern shoe? Either way, I'm not loving it. And so I still have a space in my heart for the Pegasus, but like it just isn't there, in terms of the like what it's delivering. And so yeah, I definitely love the Nova Blast 3 more than that, but to round out kind of like my top 5 so far. I mean, I haven't tried. I think there's another Rebel coming. Is there a Rebel coming?
Yeah,
out this
Rebel
year,
3s.
version 3?
Yeah. It's on sale. I think it might be in Europe.
Is it already?
I don't know.
You guys have
Someone
been
was
getting
saying to me the other
all the
day,
shoes
40,
early.
have you seen it? It's out in some, whatever. But I don't know whether that's true or not. So,
so like
I actually
I've
think,
been,
Mike, what you just said. So I was just going to say what you just said really came true. And you said about the Pegasus. I'm currently in the Pegasus 39 for my slower runs, and you just hit the nail on the head. I'm not sure if they're meant to be a retro shoe now or a new high energy shoe. I don't think they've quite got the balance right there. There's something, I don't know if they've tried to go back to the 34 or if they're trying something new. It just doesn't sit 100% right for me. And I feel like they're losing ground a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if it's just if they're not executing well, which would be rare for Nike, right? I mean, for them to not execute well, it would be a surprise. But then I'm like, well, if this is what they were expecting of that shoe, then I'm not the person that the shoe's meant for then. So I'm thinking like someone that puts in 70 miles a week when they're marathon training, maybe that's not, I mean, but but then again, like they're pro athletes seem to love the Pegasus. But I think for normal people, the Pegasus seems to be for people that are training for 10K, 5K, maybe. I mean, that are doing maybe faster daily runs, but shorter mileage. Maybe they prefer it. I don't know. But it's not like the 39 is really good. But it's, not
it's definitely an improvement.
Like where I think the Pegasus really can be.
I'm wondering with 40 whether they go like we saw with the thing the other day, with the sort of Zoom X scraps and stuff like that with a carrier. I'm wondering if they're going to go that way because they seem to be phasing out React. Maybe like even that Winflow where are they? Winflow 9's got Cushlon Plus. I mean, it's great, but it's terrible at the same time. But I don't know. They just seem to moving away from React. I'm wondering whether the next peg will end up being Zoom X scraps like the Zoom Fly was. I'm just wondering if they're going to change it totally for the 40th version.
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate they'll do something big. I have no idea what they're going to be doing with it. And I don't know. I've never tried any of the shoes with the Zoom X scraps because I've heard so many bad things about them.
Dude.
So like I've been just kind of staying away. I love Zoom X. But like the Zoom X scraps, I've been just kind of like, I'll wait for a regular Zoom X midsole version to come out.
But we've got to give a shout out to Andy Forrest of Dean. Love that guy. Love his channel. Love Andy. He absolutely loves the Zoom Fly 5, even though whatever didn't work for me. But he said it's his most misunderstood shoe. And I'm glad that, and I love it. That's what I love about shoes. It's so polarizing sometimes. But so if definitely everybody watch Andy's video as well because there's the other side of the argument with the Zoom X scraps. He's done a great video about it. It didn't work for me. I couldn't stand it, but Andy loves it. So that's the cool thing. But I mean, again, look at Andy compared to other people. We're all different runners, right? And that's the awesome thing about it. So yeah, if I'd be interested to see whether they go down that route. Right, Wilco, come on, keep the people happy. Come on.
Ian Lowe asks on a different tack, any tips for how to cope with the hole that's left mentally when the training and the marathon is over?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 ways to look at that. One is to sign up for another race. That might not be the healthiest behavior, but I feel like it's a pretty easy fix. So like just put another race on the calendar. That's one way to do it. But for me, a lot of times when I'm kind of feeling that, I really try to make sure I dive in on some of the other aspects of my life that I may have neglected a little bit when I got super deep into the marathon training block. So, making sure that I'm, checking in with the kids, checking in with my wife, doing a couple of extra things around the house that I've probably been neglecting to do or been putting off. So I kind of try to dive in same amount of energy, but into just to something else while the body's recovering, to try and kind of keep that, that your brain is so used to focusing on something. So I just need to give it another thing to look at. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool. Lee Wilson asks, what are your bucket list events?
Bucket list
And
events.
before I don't want to preempt your answer as well. Maybe link to this.
Yeah.
Luke Virtual Game UK also said, "Are you thinking of Boston?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopefully have enough of a buffer to get into Boston for April, and so that is a race that I'm planning on racing it once. I'll probably go many times, but I think I'm probably gonna only race it one time. I have a feeling that there may be some like kind of BAA issues if I try to film the race, so I may not be allowed back in. But
I don't know who you are.
No, what's that really funny guy? The great YouTube channel.
Yeah, Steven. I had a chance to run with him out in Boulder when I was out there, but he had a bunch of issues with the BAA, threatening to take his video down. And so I'm like, that's almost certainly going to happen to me. So, I'm going to try and sneak my camera in like I always do. It's always against the rules for me to do that, but I always just kind of do it anyway, knowing that it could be grounds for a DQ, or I could be, never allowed back into a race. So I'm planning on running Boston one time.
Good man.
But to answer like the first question, the bucket list race is definitely running the Tokyo Marathon. So, and I do have a bib for next year, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Cool. Chris, you got a few?
Yeah, I've got like fanboy questions. So we're because I'm conscious of the time, right? So we're gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna. I think it's
one last one after you finish.
Yeah, it's not like the quick fire lightning round, because it's not that, because basically I've forgotten those questions. But I've got 5 questions for you. All right. So the first one is probably the most. Well, it's not the most important because that's coming, but because of our friends at Skechers, big fans. Everybody check out Skechers. What is your? Because you haven't done much content on Skechers recently, I noticed. Big telling off coming your way from the guys at Skechers. So as they're sponsoring this podcast, what is your favorite ever pair of Skechers that you've run?
I think it would have to be the Razor Elite, the one that had the H plate in it.
Oh, yeah.
Not like the Razor 3. Like the Razor 3 was really good. But there was like the Razor Elite shoe that I don't know. I don't think it was intended for marathon racing.
No, it wasn't.
But for 10K, 5K, that shoe was super lightweight, super fast, and very exciting to run in. So that's probably my favorite one. I just would like to see more of like a marathon version of it. I think sometimes the Hyperburst, I think they need to figure out the way to make it like marathon distance exciting for me. Because like they have something in the Razor Elite. I love the upper, I love the design. I just wish that I could take that feeling and put it to 26 miles.
I mean, if Cyber's on here, Simon, who I run with, he's on his, I think, 4th pair of Max Road 5s. He's absolutely addicted to that shoe. I mean, he wears them for trails. He wears them for anything. Even making pizza at home, he wears his Max Road 5, right? It's insane. And he has to get them now from Running Warehouse because Skechers over here have sold out. So he keeps shipping them in.
Okay.
But how cool is this? He got them in like 3 days from Running Warehouse in the US. I mean, that's pretty awesome. In fair play to him. Yeah. That's not one of the questions, by the way. Right, next thing, really important. What's he like hanging out with Thomas from Believe in the Run? Because that guy looks like a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to hang out with Thomas. I've been spending a lot of time with the Believe in the Run group. And I absolutely love spending time with them. It makes it a lot easier to go to a lot of these events when they're there, because they just make it a lot more fun for me. And so like the content is a little bit more just easier to come by. And also they don't care when I'm like got my GoPro out and filming stuff. And so like, I mentioned earlier, it's like sometimes it's a little bit awkward to be the guy with the selfie stick, and they don't care. So it's like very natural for them to do it, and they get it. And so like, it's a lot of fun for me to hang out with them. And Thomas has like very little attention span. So there's always like, there's always something happening around Thomas.
I just love to be at a party with him. It'd just be amazing. Right. 2 more, because you've actually answered one of them. So I'll let you off that one.
Okay.
And these are probably the hardest questions you're going to have all year. Firstly, have you ever done a marathon after eating the day before, 2 McDonald's breakfasts, fish and chips for lunch, meatballs, dough balls, ice creams, and 4 pints of lager, and then run a marathon. Have you ever tried that?
And a 2-minute PB.
And a 2-minute and get a 2-minute PB. Have you ever done that?
I would say probably not. You know, I try to ease off the beer a little bit before a race. I know some people like to have like a night before beer to kind of like relax them a little bit, help them get to bed kind of thing. But that's never really worked out for me.
Not 4 pints.
But I do, yeah, not 4 pints. And I do tend to eat a lot, you know. Yeah. I do tend to eat a lot before, like the week of the race, to try, you know, like just carb up and get everything filled system wise, but not quite as much as what you mentioned.
Yeah, Wilco, anyone? I mean,
it was a long day. Now your friends it's a long way on a train from London to Edinburgh.
Yeah, you can sort of shift that training plan over to Mike on Insta, I think. Now, actually, this is the last question. Have you ever trained at a 60% effort level? Because this is the new hashtag that's going around. Hashtag 60%. Wilco, do you want to fill Mike in on the 60% rule?
Yeah.
Go on then.
We went out for a run and we were quit. Someone suggested that none of us liked running and we just hated it for different reasons. But I said that I liked running because the optimum level of effort is about 60%. And I live my life using an effort level of 60% and always have done. So I could have gone to a better college if I'd have worked a bit harder at school, but I only put in 60% and I could have been a better soccer player. But I decided 60% was the level that I wanted to do. And now I've found my thing because 60% is the way to go, literally the way forward.
Have you ever considered it, Mike? You know, training for that sub 3 at 60% of effort?
I mean, like when I was doing all low heart rate running, I mean, that was probably less than 60% effort for a good 3 or 4 months on all my runs. And so it didn't end up in a good marathon. That was when I blew up at Houston. You know, it was a disaster that day. But and I made a lot of other mistakes too. So it wasn't great for marathon speed, but it was really good for kind of like onboarding low heart rate running. So it was a useful time. So I recommend it.
There you go.
I endorse 60%.
Right, so Wilco, you're going to ask me
one last question about Chicago, and then I was just going to ask one last question and let Mike go.
Yeah.
And he's frozen.
He's got
I was just going to ask you just quickly before
I'm
we
good.
go.
I'm here.
I know what it was. He wanted to know what is your key one tip
I'm here.
for doing the Chicago Marathon.
Key one tip for doing the Chicago Marathon, I would say I'll go with like a fun one is make sure you are having a lot of fun. There's a lot of crowd that's out there. So like really take advantage of it. Cause like there's a lot of great cheering that happens along the course. The city of Chicago loves the marathon and they love all the racers. So it's a great city to get that crowd support. From a tactical, like nuts and bolts perspective, I would say miles 16 through 20 are really tricky for a lot of people, and a lot of people will overdo it. Myself, I've overdone it pretty much every single time I've run Chicago. I overdo it in those miles. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because that's the section where it gets a little bit quiet, but everyone tends to speed up there, and they pay for it after about mile 20. So in those miles, really take it easy and be patient in that section, and then you'll have a good finish.
That's great. And I just wanted to, one last question came in from Dermot Dowling, which I think sums up everything right well. He'd like to know, why do you run? Everybody has their reasons for doing it. Why do you think you do? Why do you?
Great question.
It just really makes me feel good, right? And so like if I didn't feel good from it, I probably wouldn't keep doing it. But it's one of those things for me that I feel good about. There's a lot of things that I enjoy about it, kind of like the gamification of it on Strava, the data that I get from my watch, interacting with people on Instagram and YouTube. Those are all great things. But at the base of it, like I feel better when I run. And that's all I really need to know about it. I'm not going to question it a lot further than that, because that's a pretty good thing and a pretty rare thing for a lot of people these days. So if you find that thing that makes you feel good, keep chasing it. And that's what I've been doing with the running.
What a great way to finish.
Brilliant.
What a great way to
now,
finish.
Mike, before we let you go, can you just, I'm sure lots of people will be aware of this, but then I'm sure in the last hour we've had such a great hour of content, and we've accumulated a few more fans as well. Could you just let people know where they can find you out there in the World Wide Web?
Yeah, on YouTube and on Instagram, I'm Kofuzi, Kofuzi. So you can always find me there.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being so candid and answering everybody's questions, being such a nice bloke, really. You know, we've had a wonderful time with you.
Generally, Wilco, right? I'm just going to just do a bit more sucking up, right? But it's been awesome because seriously, yeah, I said this to Ben when I met Ben in person. You know, guys like yourself, guys like Ben, genuine people who are doing this for the right reasons. Yeah, you do come across as the nice guy because you are a nice guy. Yeah, you're doing above and beyond. You're trying to build community. You're trying to encourage people to run. Just, you know, for mental health, because they, like you just said, because they enjoy it and you're bringing people together. That's powerful. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing because it is making a difference to people. Yeah, honestly, mate, you've got to be proud of what you're doing. So, you know, thanks very much from someone who really does admire you. So I appreciate it, you know, coming on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you again, Mike, for coming on. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully, you know, that you might have put a few on the gate. You know, there might have had a few more than we usually have. So if you're not familiar with what we do, we do a live stream, and every Friday night, 7 o'clock UK and Ireland time. So you can always catch us either live on Facebook or YouTube, or you can download us later in the week and take us off for your long run on Spotify, Amazon, all your usual podcast providers. So thanks ever so much for joining us. Thanks, Mike, again. Thanks for coming along. Thanks, Hayden, for interrupting his holiday.
Yeah.
Well, he's dedicated to applause.
Thanks, Toby, for doing nothing and mucking up the audio.
Toby keeps it going. Toby's our Charlie Watts. He just keeps it going. Without him, it'd fall apart.
We're live everywhere.
So much, everybody. We will be back next week, 7 o'clock on YouTube, on Facebook. Download us. Enjoy your running this weekend. Make the best of it. And thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.